Have you ever been walking through your office? Maybe you're on your way to grab a coffee or, heading to a conference room for some mid-morning check-in.
Right, the classic 10 a.m. coffee run.
Exactly. And you stop in the break room and you see it. You know the exact image I'm talking about. The poster.
Oh yeah, every office has one.
It's usually like a silhouette of a man standing on the jagged peak of a mountain at sunrise, just staring off into the distance.
Naturally.
And right beneath him, printed in some bespoke corporate font that probably cost an ad agency like $11,000 to design, is a single word.
Let me guess. Innovation.
Innovation. Or, excellence. Disruption. Have you ever looked at that motivational poster and felt just an overwhelming bone-deep urge to just lie down on the floor?
I mean, it is a very specific, very universal type of exhaustion. You are experiencing the fatigue of corporate theater.
Corporate theater. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to unpack an incredibly sharp piece of source material.
It's a great read.
Yeah, it really is. It's an excerpt titled "The Poster Lied, Corporate Theater and the Cult of Mediocrity." And the goal here is to decode the unspoken rules of workplace politics.
Right.
We're trying to figure out why organizations loudly and publicly claim to want rock star innovators, these, dynamic change agents, but then so predictably end up punishing the exact people who fit that description.
It remains, honestly, one of the greatest structural contradictions in modern business. Companies will allocate massive budgets, sometimes millions of dollars, to recruit for a highly specific disruptive profile.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they spend exponentially more resources trying to neutralize that very same profile the second they step foot inside the building.
And the defining image from our source text is that break room poster. Because the ultimate irony, as the author points out, is that if the man on that mountain actually worked at that company, like if he genuinely brought that visionary, rule-breaking mountain climber energy into a Tuesday morning status meeting, he would be managed out of the organization by Thursday.
Oh, he wouldn't survive to the end of his first pay period. The ecosystem simply is not designed to sustain the type of person it claims to idolize.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why that mountain climber gets fired, we really have to look at the massive gap between the quote-unquote fantasy hire and the corporate reality.
Right.
An organization puts out a call, and the job description reads like a wish list for a corporate superhero. They want a self-starter. They want a creative genius, someone who isn't afraid to challenge the status quo.
Disruptor is the buzzword that continually gets thrown around in these listings.
Yeah.
Come disrupt our industry.
But it's a complete illusion. So the way I was thinking about it while reading through the text is this.
Okay.
It's like a suburban dad going to a luxury dealership and buying a high-performance, open-wheel Formula One race car.
A literal race car, sure.
Yeah. He pays top dollar for it.
Yeah.
He brings it home, parks it in the driveway, and shows it off to all the neighbors to prove how serious he is about speed.
As you do.
But then he only ever drives it in a 15-mile-per-hour school zone.
Right.
And when the car inevitably starts stalling out and the engine runs way too hot because, a Formula One engine literally wasn't built to idle at 15 miles per hour.
She could fail.
Exactly. The dad gets absolutely furious at the car for malfunctioning.
The mechanical failure is inevitable because of the environment, not the machine.
Right.
And, well, if we translate that to human nature, the reason the employee's engine runs hot is tied directly to how highly capable people operate.
Right.
When you hire a genuinely creative, analytical person, they do not stay in their neatly defined box. Their brains are wired for pattern recognition and optimization. They naturally wander outside their job titles.
Which is what you want them to do, in theory.
Exactly. And it's crucial to understand they aren't doing this to be reckless or to rebel against authority. They just naturally see the broader systems at play. If they spot a glaring problem 2 doors down in another department, they cannot unsee it.
Yeah, they have to fix it.
They color outside the lines because they are looking for the best possible outcome for the business, not just checking a box to justify their salary.
They're optimizing the whole machine, which is theoretically the exact job they were hired to do.
Well, what's fascinating here is that nobody actually asked this change agent to look behind the curtain. The company asked for innovation in theory, but not in practice.
Oh, that's a great distinction.
They wanted the aesthetic of innovation to put on a slide deck, not the messy, disruptive reality of overhauling a flawed system. And in the process of coloring outside the lines, the new hire accidentally reveals something highly sensitive.
The actual mess behind the scenes.
Yes. They reveal the company's beloved processes, the workflows that people have been defending and worshiping for like 9 years are actually broken. They expose that the whole operational system is just held together with tape and fear.
Tape and fear. That phrase from the text really stuck with me.
It's so accurate.
Because the moment this new hire points out that the emperor has no clothes or that, the 9-year-old approval process is creating a massive bottleneck, they unknowingly set the stage for a massive clash.
Absolutely.
You would think management would be thrilled. You'd think they would hand this person a bonus for finding an inefficiency. But the fallout is the exact opposite. Management reacts with panic.
Immediate panic.
Which brings us to the inciting incident of the corporate squeeze. The 4 most terrifying words in the English language.
Jay, you got a sec?
Yes, or 5 words, I guess. It's amazing how those little words can instantly trigger a fight or flight response, even if you know you've done absolutely nothing wrong.
Oh, for sure.
It's the dreaded calendar invite that just says touch base with absolutely no agenda attached.
The no-agenda meeting is deployed as a tool of psychological warfare. By withholding the topic of conversation, management deliberately puts the employee on the defensive before they even walk into the room. It establishes a power dynamic.
Let me play devil's advocate for a moment, though.
Okay, go for it.
We are operating on the assumption that the employee is a misunderstood genius. But are we absolutely sure these quote-unquote creative types aren't just genuinely annoying to work with?
That's a fair point to raise.
Like, if I come into your house and start rearranging your living room furniture without asking, you are going to be annoyed no matter how much better the feng shui is. What if these disruptors actually are just causing chaos and making everyone else's job significantly harder?
Well, this raises an important question, and it's a framing that gets used to justify a lot of toxic management. Is the environment experiencing actual chaos? Or is management just experiencing an exposed ego?
Okay, I like that.
The text makes a very clear distinction between the two.
Sure, but where is the line? I mean, if someone comes in and ignores vital compliance protocols or bypasses necessary legal reviews just to get a project done faster, that's not just a bruised ego on the manager's part. That's a massive liability for the company. So how does an organization actually tell the difference between a rogue employee causing genuine operational chaos and a high performer who is merely bruising a manager's ego?
You have to look at the tangible output versus the emotional friction. A genuinely rogue employee who causes chaos will eventually damage the actual key performance indicator.
Right, the metrics drop.
Exactly. Deadlines get missed, compliance is breached, clients get angry. But the high performer we are talking about in this scenario usually hits or exceeds all their tangible metrics. Their output is stellar.
Oh, interesting.
The friction they cause is almost entirely emotional and social. The real issue isn't the work itself. When a sharply competent person walks into a room, leaders who are running their teams based on ego don't feel inspired by that competence.
They feel threatened.
They feel personally exposed.
Because in many of these rigid corporate hierarchies, people survive or, fail upward by simply never rocking the boat. They master the art of looking busy without actually moving the needle.
They have built entire professional identities around a level of competence they don't possess. So suddenly, the gap between how competent they pretend to be and how competent they actually are is standing right in front of them in business casual, effortlessly solving problems they couldn't fix.
Wow.
The superior is made to feel inferior. And that is the unforgivable sin in corporate theater. A threatened ego will never promote you. It will never learn from you. It views you as a direct danger to its survival, which means you have to be eliminated from the ecosystem.
But if the ego decides this capable employee has to go, and the employee is still hitting all their metrics, how does management actually circumvent their own HR protocols?
That's the tricky part.
Firing someone cleanly requires a documented trail of failure. You can't walk into human resources and say, I want to terminate this person because they finished the project too well and it made me feel insecure.
No, you can't. Firing someone cleanly requires courage, accountability, and quantifiable evidence of poor performance. And since ego-driven management lacks all three, they have to manufacture a reason. They don't push the employee out the door. They construct the exit.
So they make the environment inside the building so incredibly unpleasant, so deeply stifling that the employee eventually walks out on their own.
They resign.
And then management gets to wash their hands of the whole situation. They get to stand around the water cooler, shake their heads, and say, oh, it's such a shame they left. We gave them every opportunity to succeed.
Legally and colloquially, This is known as constructive dismissal. It forces the employee to do the hard emotional work of terminating the employment, allowing the manager to avoid any blame for losing top-tier talent.
And the text dives deeply into the mechanics of the squeeze, which are incredibly specific and insidious. The author calls it death by 1,000 paper cuts.
A perfect description.
They can't attack the big work. Like if you just delivered a brilliant marketing strategy that doubled user engagement, they can't criticize the strategy. The numbers speak for themselves. The data is bulletproof.
So they go small.
Right. Management goes small. They weaponize the minutia.
The nitpick becomes the primary management strategy.
Suddenly, your formatting on an internal memo is slightly off. You used the wrong slide template for a presentation that went beautifully. You didn't CC a specific mid-level manager who has never once contributed anything useful to the project.
Yep.
Management starts weaponizing Slack response times, questioning why it took you 14 minutes to reply to a non-urgent message, or my personal favorite example from the source text.
Oh, I know which one you're going to say.
An email you sent at 4:51 p.m. on a Friday had a tone that was, quote, a little much.
Tone policing is the ultimate refuge of a threatened manager because it is completely subjective. You cannot empirically prove your tone wasn't a little much.
It's impossible to defend against.
Suddenly, all these invisible standards appear out of thin air, and you realize they are only being applied to you.
Yeah.
You are being measured with a punitive ruler that no one else in the department is subjected to. And the brilliant manipulative part of this strategy is that if you complain to HR about it, you sound paranoid.
Because each individual paper cut is so incredibly small. Like if you walk into HR and say, my boss is out to get me because he criticized my slide template, you sound unhinged.
Exactly.
The pattern is the whole point. It is designed over months to make you question your own professional sanity. It's a workplace form of gaslighting.
And when the paper cuts aren't quite enough to make you pack up your desk and quit, they bring out the heavy artillery.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because this phrase has ended more brilliant careers than any economic recession, you are officially declared not a culture fit.
Culture fit is perhaps the most fascinating piece of corporate doublespeak we have. Historically, it was meant to ensure employees shared the company's core values.
Sure, that makes sense.
But structurally, it has evolved into a completely unquantifiable metric that HR and management can weaponize at will.
What does that actually mean in practice, though? Because we've already established this person embodies the literal culture printed on the break room poster. They are the innovator.
Well, what culture fit translates to in this specific scenario is you fit our discomfort.
Oh, wow.
When they say you aren't a culture fit, it means you matched the stated public values of the company far too well. And the reality of that terrified everyone. True innovation requires change, and change is inherently uncomfortable. It requires acknowledging past mistakes.
Right.
So the culture they were protecting isn't the one on the poster. The actual lived culture is the unspoken agreement to blindly maintain the status quo.
So the ideal employee in this corporate theater is simply the person who has learned to keep their head down. The hero of the story isn't the innovator. It's the person who actively ignores the cracks in the foundation, enthusiastically praises the emperor's new outfit, and quietly collects their paycheck without improvising.
They clap on cue. That is the true definition of a culture fit.
So what does this all mean for the macro level of the business? We've just walked through the miserable, localized life cycle of the doomed high performer. But there has to be a massive institutional cost to repeating this cycle over and over again.
The cost is huge.
Innovation isn't just dying naturally in these organizations. It is actively being escorted out of the building by HR in a cardboard box under the guise of pursuing other opportunities.
The institutional cost is staggering. Companies are hemorrhaging their top operational talent, and they are doing it willingly. They are making an active structural choice to prioritize the fragile egos and leadership over the actual health and efficiency of the business.
The source text highlights this incredible absurdity with how management behaves at the top level. You have these executives who will literally spend 3 weeks locked in a mahogany boardroom, catering expensive lunches, arguing over tiny budget line items.
Performing seriousness.
Performing seriousness, exactly. They act like they are saving the company by cutting the software licensing budget by 4%, while completely ignoring the talent drain happening on the floor below them.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source material offers a profound realization about those meetings. Quote, "The expensive problem is never the budget. The expensive problem is the culture the budget meeting exists to avoid talking about." Unquote.
That reframes everything. The budget meeting is basically an avoidance strategy.
Completely. Think about the psychology of a spreadsheet. Math is safe. Spreadsheets do not have emotions, and they don't require emotional intelligence to navigate.
That's true.
It is infinitely easier for an executive to look at a budget and cut travel expenses by 5% than it is to look in a mirror and confront the fact that their director of sales is a toxic micromanager who is driving away all the top earners. Confronting human behavior requires difficult conversations and self-reflection. Cutting a line item just requires a calculator.
But the math they are ignoring is the cost of turnover. The text points out that taking care of your culture inherently takes care of your business. It is organizational physics.
Yes.
If you retain top talent, your product inevitably gets better, your operational efficiency improves, and your revenue goes up. The ROI on retaining a mountain climber is astronomically higher than saving 4% on office supplies.
But achieving that ROI requires the ego complex to do the inner work, which it violently refuses to do.
Wow.
These so-called leaders use the act of micromanaging others as a substitute for managing themselves.
Wow.
If I am constantly fixing your tone on a Friday afternoon email, I never have to face the fact that my entire department is missing its quarterly targets because of my fundamental lack of strategic vision. I outsource my professional discomfort onto you.
That is wild.
They will literally torch their own building just to ensure they remain the tallest person standing inside the ashes.
They build a protective bubble of mediocrity. And because they systematically manage out anyone who possesses the analytical skills to pop that bubble, their delusion goes entirely unchallenged. They walk around with the executive lanyard, fully convinced they're visionary leaders.
It is a self-sealing system, and it leaves a trail of burned-out, highly competent people in its wake.
Which means we really need to bring this home, because there is someone listening to us right now, maybe sitting in their car in the office parking lot, staring at the steering wheel, absolutely dreading the walk into that building because they are living this exact scenario.
Oh, undoubtedly.
They are being tone policed. They're getting the no agenda meetings. What is the takeaway for them from our deep dive today?
If you are that employee, if you are the one being subjected to the slow squeeze of impossible subjective standards and drowning in paper cuts, the most vital thing you can internalize today is that you didn't do anything wrong. Your high level of competence is the actual offense. You broke the unspoken rule of the corporate theater by being genuinely excellent at your job. And it held up a mirror to people who are terrified of their own reflections.
Stop sanding down your edges. Do not dim your own light just to make yourself fit into a rigged game played by people who are always going to resent you anyway.
Absolutely.
If you are a Formula One car, stop trying to convince yourself that you belong in a 15-mile-per-hour zone. Go find a racetrack. Let them keep the minivan.
I love that. And we also need to deliver a very clear message to any leaders or executives who might be tuning in to this analysis.
Absolutely. For the leaders listening, you need to do an honest, uncomfortable audit of your own organization. Look back at the profiles of the people who have left your company voluntarily or mutually over the last 2 to 3 years.
Right. Don't just look at the numbers.
Don't just look at the overall turnover rate as a sterile metric. Look at the personalities. If your sharpest, most inquisitive, most creative people are consistently the ones walking out the door, the poster in your break room is lying. And the terrifying truth is, everyone on your floor can see it except you.
You either manage the ego or the ego manages your best people right out the door. There is no middle ground in organizational health.
It is a lot to think about. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Something that builds on everything we've talked about today, but takes it one step further into the future of how we work.
I'm intrigued. Where does this logically go next?
Think about artificial intelligence for a second. We've spent this entire deep dive looking at how corporate leadership is desperate to avoid the discomfort of true, messy human innovation. Management relies on culture fit and ego-driven politics to silence the employees who point out the cracks in the foundation. But what happens when an AI tool, an algorithm that is completely immune to office politics, has absolutely zero ego to bruise, and cannot be threatened with being a bad culture fit, starts pointing out those exact same foundational cracks?
Oh, that is a fascinating collision waiting to happen. An algorithm doesn't care about the manager's golf game. It doesn't need to be invited to the department happy hour. It just presents the undeniable data.
Exactly. If the company integrates an AI system to audit workflows, and the AI instantly flags that sacred and 9-year-old approval process as highly inefficient and detrimental to the bottom line, What does the mahogany boardroom do?
That's the million-dollar question.
Will they try to give the algorithm a bad performance review? Will they try to manage out the software by cutting its server access? Or will the sheer objective reality of the math finally force them to look in the mirror?
That will be the ultimate stress test of corporate theater. You can gaslight an employee. You cannot gaslight an algorithm.
You really can't. So the next time you find yourself in the break room pouring a cup of lukewarm coffee and you look up at that poster, you look up at the mountain sunrise with the $11,000 innovation font. That you remember? If he walked through the front doors today, he'd be gone by Thursday. Keep your edges sharp. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.